Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining our InsideSales.com Best Practice Training webinar today. We're excited to have you guys on. My name is Sam Hancock. I'm a manager of customer success at Inside Sales. I've been with the company now for more than 3 years, and we're excited to host this webinar for you. We do have a question and answer feature for this webinar, so we do want to have it to be interactive and ask questions as we go along, and we'll try to get some in during the webinar, and we have people on our end running the webinar as well and answering questions as we go along in the chat feature. I wanted to kind of set this webinar up a little bit to kind of help you understand what we're trying to accomplish and hopefully give you an idea of what Inside Sales does. We want to take you through a few slides about Inside Sales and the purpose behind it. And then also we want to go through a live demo of our tools, and hopefully you guys will see some things that we have done or that we do on our end to really maximize our tool and really kind of help you paint the value for your end users as well as to why Inside Sales is powerful and how it can help them in their success as sales reps. So to get down into it, I wanted to just kind of quickly talk about a little bit about why Inside Sales. So at Inside Sales, we believe in applying the science to sales, essentially. If you look back at the sales industry 10, 20, 30 years ago, you have a lot of old school sales tactics which were, built around a lot of gut feelings and really building out personal relationships, a lot of, visiting clients on site. But as companies have changed and sales organizations have changed, a lot of people have moved those into inside sales teams and a lot of phone dialing and not so much of those kind of visiting and building those relationships as personal as we would like them to be. But so Inside Sales is trying to help your inside sales team essentially be more productive, more efficient, and still have the same amount of impact that maybe an outside sales rep can have who is in a specific area. As we have built our company and we've worked with over thousands of companies and different sales organizations, we've really found a few different things that have come across our plate that are the challenges that inside sales reps tend to run into throughout their day. The first one is, who do we contact? So at any given sales organization, you can have anywhere between 20 to sometimes even 200,000 different leads that are open and able to be worked. And if you divide that up among your sales reps, that kind of becomes really overwhelming, and if they're working anywhere between 200 to 1,000 leads at any given time, it's hard for them to know who they should be contacting, especially if you look at most of the time we see on average our companies making anywhere between 40 to 60 dials when we start working with them. And again, 40 to 60 dials, that means you're not even getting through half of your leads that you have available in a day. And again, it can cause that problem of who should I be contacting, and then also when should we be contacting them. So we actually have data that shows that there are good times to call people and there are bad times to call people. Now, I'll go into that a little bit more here in a while, but that is, we've done research based on like sales industry as a whole. So it's going to vary between different industries and different companies, obviously, as to when is the successful time to call people. But our tools will enable you as an admin or you as an end user to figure out when are the best times to actually be reaching out and finding these people and calling them to hopefully increase contact rates and have additional conversations. The last thing is just kind of daily roadblocks. If you're using a CRM, what you'll find is, as you're getting pushed to log tasks and you're wanting for your reps to get in there and document everything because that data is really valuable to you guys. But if you're making 60 dials in a day and you're having to log 60 tasks, and then not to mention all the emails and all the other administrative stuff that you're doing throughout the day to pull contracts and proposals together and set appointments, realistically, I mean, you could be spending anywhere between 2 to 3 hours in a day handling that kind of stuff. So that's really what Inside Sales is trying to tackle for a lot of our inside sales organizations, is to help them understand who to contact and when to contact them, and then ultimately removing those daily roadblocks from an inside sales rep so they can, again, be more productive, more efficient throughout the day, rather than worrying about logging tasks or activities in a Salesforce or a CRM. So again, the kind of the classic sales problem for our companies is that they have a lot of leads, and really their prospects are, they have a lot of the really terrible leads and very few of the best leads. But as a sales rep, as I get in there, I don't really know exactly what are maybe the best leads and the worst leads to be working at the time. And what we find is that when we go and start working with companies, is that we actually see that there's equal effort applied across all different leads. So by leveraging inside sales, what we can actually accomplish is getting to the point of applying more effort onto the best leads by prioritizing and shifting our focus, and really kind of staying away from those leads that are not going to matriculate into a qualified opportunity, letting marketing still nurture those leads along until we can kind of move them along the funnel to get them into that best lead. So again, hopefully we're more focused, we're having better success rates and contact rates, and then more quality conversations by leveraging inside sales. And then also what we allow our companies to accomplish through our platform is, I mentioned that there's good times and bad times to call people, and I wanted to give you a little bit of the sampling of kind of what I was chatting about or what I was talking about. So we did a study based over 100,000 leads with several different companies that we kind of monitored and looked at, and we actually found that there were significant differences on, for example, the day of the week of when you should actually be calling somebody. So, for example, there's a 49% difference of calling somebody on a Thursday versus a Tuesday in terms of contact rate. So that's pretty significant that, if you are really focused on a Thursday of calling people and focusing on those leads, that you're going to have a little bit more success. Now, again, this is going to vary between each company and each industry as to what are the best days. But if you start leveraging inside sales, we're automatically recording those tasks and all that information for you. And I'll show you a sample report here in the live demo that we'll do that kind of spells that out. And we actually have canned reports already within Salesforce that help you understand when you're seeing your successes for contact rates. Another thing to look at and consider is even just time of day. So there's actually a 164% difference of contacting somebody from 4 to 5 as there is from 1 to 2. Again, huge significant jump. So if I'm a sales rep and I'm looking at this data, my first inclination should be, hey, I need to make sure that a Thursday or a Wednesday are kind of sacred dialing times, and that, I try not to schedule my appointments and meetings and maybe one-on-ones with managers or whatever that may be on those days, and I'm really focused on dialing. Same thing with time of day. So if I'm the West Coast rep and I am working East Coast leads, I want to make sure I'm maximizing those times. So if from 4 to 5, my chance of getting in contact with somebody goes up 164%, then I want to make sure I'm in my seat at 1 o'clock on the West Coast, so it's 4 o'clock on the East Coast, dialing those leads, not taking late lunches and not doing those kind of things. Same thing within the morning. What we find is and I've been on site with several different companies, at 8 o'clock in the morning, we see kind of that drag in coming in from sales reps, and they go grab their cup of coffee and they're, talk with their neighbor. Well, that's really a sacred dialing time that you guys should be focused on so that you guys are, again, increasing your opportunities to find additional leads and having those quality conversations. So again, I wanted to paint a little bit of the picture of the value of inside sales and kind of how we're trying to help our companies, again, when to contact, who to contact, and removing those daily roadblocks. I'm going to jump into a live environment now of Salesforce and show you kind of how we do these things. So within inside sales, there's 2 ways to make dials through our system. One is what we refer to as the click-to-call, and one is what we refer to as the power dialer. I'm going to go through both of these tools, but I do want to have an understanding of kind of the differences of them as well. So with click-to-call is really kind of our most basic feature in terms of the power and the use of the tool that it has and the capabilities. Let me just make sure that this is getting pulled up correctly. So with the click-to-call feature, it is, again, it's one of our most basic tools. You'll see it pretty much everywhere you go in Salesforce. It'll always be here on the left-hand side or sometimes on the right-hand side, depending on how your Salesforce admin has set it up. But again, it's really more designed for kind of one-off dialing. So for example, let's say I need to get in contact with John Doe at ABC Company. What I would do is that I would go into, or even we can use Kristen Atkin here at this company. I can go into Kristen's record, and you'll see that her phone number is going to be hyperlinked here on the left or on the right-hand side. If I go ahead and just click on that link, it will initiate a phone call for me, and from there, what will happen is my desk phone is going to ring, and then once my desk phone rings, I am now going to be connected to Kristen. So it will always connect what we call the agent leg first. So that is the rep's phone that they'll connect to, and then it's going to dial out to Kristen or to whatever the lead is. Now, as we go along, we'll see a few different things here that we can leverage. So for example, caller ID. So we actually have several different types of caller IDs that you can leverage. One is, for example, local presence. I know a lot of our companies really like this tool. It's really a great feature that's going to mask the caller ID of the person that you're calling into. We have local presence in the U.S., and we also have it in our EMEA area as well. So if you do have EMEA reps and you guys are not utilizing local presence, I would reach out to either your admin who can reach out to one of our customer success managers to make sure that that gets activated for you guys. Some other options that you have are, a company phone number, your own desk number. So, for example, I have some companies who have seen some great success in, hey, I know Kristen, we scheduled an appointment, but she didn't pick up. I want to call her again, but I don't want to seem overbearing or annoying to her. So, hey, I'll just quickly switch the caller ID from maybe local presence to my company phone number, and it gives me an opportunity to call her again without, again, looking like it's coming from the same person over and over again. Some other things that you'll see here is that we can transfer the call. So if I'm a VDR rep and I want to do a warm transfer to somebody in my organization because I have a qualified opportunity, I can now transfer that phone call to maybe a closer and do more of a warm handoff. So the closer does not necessarily have to have an inside sales license. You can do a manual transfer, which will allow you to, or even just a phone number transfer, which will, again, just allow you to find anybody within your organization with just a 10-digit number or doing a manual transfer that you can connect and do that warm handoff, which, again, usually tends to increase close rates. In fact, we always encourage trying to do warm handoffs. What we find, particularly with BDRs or SDRs who are more appointment setters, we find that if you schedule the next sales appointment or the next opportunity even 4 days out, the chances of those people actually showing up to that appointment go down dramatically, and the chances of actually closing that sales opportunity goes down to almost zero. So there is a matter of kind of speed to getting to that next appointment. So we always recommend scheduling it within 4 days, and that warm transfer really kind of helps that process out because you get them connected instantly with that sales rep. Some other things that you can do a conference call. One of my favorite features is the leave voicemail functionality. So let's say you are just a power dialer and you're burning through phone calls, but let's say you have about a 10% contact rate and you're making 100 dials in a day. Well, that means that 90 other times that you've left a dial, you're not having a conversation, you're hitting a voicemail. So if you're leaving a voicemail every single time at 30 seconds a voicemail, that's about 45 minutes in your day that you're leaving a very similar voicemail each time to the same person. So the leave voicemail feature is automated voicemails that allow reps to create just random kind of voicemails that they can leave on any given rep. So what you would do here is that you would click on the leave voicemail. You would have a list of your different voicemails that you can select from. And once the message plays and they say, hey, please leave a message at the beep. Once you hear that beep, they can click leave voicemail, and it'll automatically push out. If I'm a rep, I can now hang up and I can move on to my next record that I'm trying to dial. Now, one of the things I get a lot of pushback on is, well, hey, Sam, I understand the value of using those automated voicemails in terms of, increasing my speed and productivity and not leaving a voicemail over and over again. But I really like to leave personalized voicemails because I just feel like there's just a better, feeling for the overall experience for the customer. And usually my response is, hey, let's just say randomly you left 100 voicemails in a day. How many of those people actually call you back? And generally it's, maybe 1 or 2 if I'm lucky. And that's really what our research shows, is that voicemail is actually not a great tool to get somebody to respond to you. Voicemail is more of a marketing impression, so that the next time that I call Kristen, she knows who I am because she's got a couple of voicemails from me. She's a little bit more familiar. It doesn't feel so much of a cold call. It's, again, almost like a nurture for those leads. So there is a lot of value to that. And some other feedback that I've gotten on automated voicemails is, again, if you really are trying to push your reps to make more dials, first of all, you're automatically going to have more time in the day because you're not leaving a voicemail every single time. And then second, what we have found is that it actually increases the energy of the rep, because I have been in that world where I've been making lots of phone calls and leaving lots of voicemails. By the end of the day, you're usually tired, your voice is a little bit more hoarse, and you're not as energetic as you were when you started the day. The feedback that we've gotten of reps who use automated voicemails is that they generally have a lot more energy. They are dialing a lot more, and they're a little bit more engaged at the end of the day than they were when they were trying to leave a voicemail over and over and over again. I'll go in and show you here in a little bit how you can create those automated voicemails. I do want to kind of just finish up on the click-to-call dialer here. Another tool that you can use is send email. So you can send an email straight from the inside sales panel. Those are stored as Salesforce template emails, and they do need to be stored in a public folder in order to access them. If you store them in a private folder, we are unable to actually go in and find those. The last tool that I wanted to highlight here is the set callback feature. I also really love this feature. So let's just say, for example, I got a hold of Kristen, and Kristen said, hey, Sam, I really want to talk to you, but I'm a little bit busy today. Can you give me a call back tomorrow at 2 o'clock? Okay, great. I'm going to go in and I'm going to say, okay, she wants a call back at tomorrow at 2 o'clock. I will go ahead and mark that. That's 7 a.m. my time. I will schedule that for tomorrow. I might put in some notes here about some things that Kristen and I talked about, and then I'll go ahead and hit set callback. What that's going to do is that's automatically going to create a task in Salesforce on Kristen's record for an event for me to basically call her back. And then what will happen is that if I'm in the click-to-call, I will get an alert from Salesforce, hey, you have a task reminder, you need to call Kristen back. I can go into that task, I can go into Kristen's record now and then give her a call back. Now, I have seen some, and I want to avoid some trouble that some of our companies have gotten into in the past with the set callback feature. Some of our companies have used it almost as a cadence manager, like, oh, hey, I didn't get a hold of Kristen this time, but I want to make sure I call her in 2 days, so I'm going to set a call back for 2 days to call her back. Highly do not recommend that. It generally will build up a huge list of callbacks and tasks, which is not a great way to have a sales process to go. And also, I'll explain this here in a little bit, but it actually can mess with the power dialer as well, because what will happen is that if you're utilizing the power dialer, callbacks automatically get pushed into the power dialer. And so if you create a bunch of them and then you're not following up on them, when you go to launch a list, it will automatically push all those callbacks in there, and you'll have to skip through all of them before you actually get to the first list that's not a callback. Again, only use callbacks if you have a substantial, hey, give me a call back tomorrow at 2 or on Friday or whatever it may be, that there was like a set time with that rep. The other thing that we notice as well is that sometimes, if I got a hold of Kristen, she said, hey, Sam, I'm interested in your guys' company, but the timing just isn't right now. Can you give me like 3 months before you reach out to me again? So we'll see some people who will create a callback from 3 months from now. Again, highly do not recommend that. We definitely would recommend just putting them into a new lead status so it would take them out of your dialing cadence, and then probably setting a reminder on that person to move them back into your cadence in 3 months, basically. And then down here, what you'll find is that you have different things. So we can actually put a call result for Kristen. You can say left voicemail. I got a contact or a correct contact. I do want to kind of help you understand the difference between a contact and a correct contact. The correct contact feature should just be used when it's, yes, we got a hold of the right person who is the right decision maker, and they are the person that we have to work with. A lot of times, right, we'll make phone calls. Let's say I call Kristen here, and I talk to her, and she says, hey, guess what, Sam? I'm not really the person that handles, purchasing stuff for our inside sales team. You need to talk to John Doe, who is our VP of sales. Well, that means that I would mark that as a contact instead of a correct contact at that time, so that, again, it helps us with our data management so that we can run reports as to how successful we are at finding correct contacts and calling them throughout the day. So again, that's kind of the basic feature of the click-to-call. Again, highly recommend it for one-off dialing. Some other things that you can do that are kind of related to the click-to-call is actually running a list based off of a lead view. So when you start utilizing the Power Dialer, we have two different types of lists. We have a domino list and a seek list. The domino list is what we call a static list. So what that means is that if I run a list, like a lead view, for example, for everybody in the Bay Area that has a director title, and let's just say I find 100 leads that fit that description that belong to me. What happens is I can create that list and I can put it into the Power Dialer, and then I can start calling through that list. Well, once I've called through that list, it's done. I can't use anymore. If I wanted to rerun that list, I would just have to create a brand new list again. I can't reset it or anything like that. So for example, this is actually a great way, especially for companies who have a lot of campaign dialing, or if you have an event coming up and you want your reps to try to set up appointments, you have a trade show that you want to reach out to some of these people that are going to be there, you can actually go in and create a list, and even from a lead view, sorry, let me get these active leads here. And what I can do is I can select all these people, or if I don't want Betty here, I can say, oh, I don't want her because I know I've already talked to her, and I don't want Jeff either because I know Jeff is not coming. And then I can actually go and click on Create List. I'll name it Sam's Active List. And then I'll go ahead and hit Save. And what that's going to do is it's going to automatically create a list for me. And then I'm just going to refresh this. And now in my settings, I have my dialer list here, and I have my active leads. And then I go ahead and hit Save. And then when I'm ready to start dialing those leads, I can go ahead and hit this Next Record button. Let me end the call. Sorry about that. I'll just disconnect here. So now it's going to pull up my first record here with Steve Anderson, and I can start dialing away. Once I make my phone call with Steve, I put all my notes in. I'm going to go ahead and hit Next Record, and it's going to automatically bring up that next lead I need to be dialing. So it's a great way if you have a few open activities. You can do it off of tasks even. Like I know a lot of people like to create tasks, and sometimes it gets really kind of populated with a lot of things, and they kind of get it to where the task list almost becomes unmanageable. You can go in and create a list like that based off a task and start calling through them a little bit more quickly rather than jumping from page to page on each task. You can just automatically load them up and start dialing away. Now, one thing I failed to mention, so, with Kristen, we made that phone call, and we logged it. We marked it as busy. So we talked about those daily roadblocks. So when you make a call through Inside Sales, we are going to automatically create a task in Salesforce. We're going to populate all of the information in there, when the call was made, what the call result was, what the call duration was, whatever notes that you put into that description field, that will automatically go into that activity, and then it'll attach it to the record in Salesforce so that the next time that you're looking at that record, you can see, oh yeah, I called Kristen a couple of days ago. Let me go back through and see what it was that we talked about so that I can remember and kind of make sure that we stay on target with everything that we're doing. So that's some features of that click-to-call. Again, we kind of touched a little bit on Power Dialer, but I wanted to go into that a little bit more. So with the Power Dialer, this is really the bread and butter of Inside Sales. When we talk about who to contact and when to contact those people, this is where Inside Sales tends to shine. It also helps with that productivity. Again, hopefully you see as I hop from next record to next record, you're seeing, yeah, I'm not having to jump from web page to web page, and I'm moving through my leads a little bit faster. So the Power Dialer functions off the two lists that I mentioned, the domino list and the seek list. So the seek list is, so the domino list is a static list. The seek list is what we call a dynamic list. So let's just use that example of San Francisco people with a VP title. I found 100 people on my domino list, but I want to create that into a seek list. So with the seek list is that if I find those 100 people, and as marketing is nurturing leads and getting new leads into the system, if somebody pulls in and is from San Francisco and has a VP title into our Salesforce, our system every hour crawls Salesforce essentially and finds leads that fit the criteria that you're looking for and automatically pulls them in. So the seek list is kind of like this living, breathing list view in a sense that will automatically be pulling in leads as you go. I wanted to show you guys a little bit kind of the guts of a seek list here and kind of how it works and how you can optimize it as well. So I just created a very basic seek list that hopefully kind of illustrates this. But what you'll see is that the seek lists work off of time block queries. So, we mentioned that from 8 to 9 or from 4 to 5, the contact rates tend to go up. So what I can do is I can actually build my seek list to say, hey, from 8 to 9 and from 4 to 5, I really want to make sure that I'm focused on my hot leads. I have a rating of hot in Salesforce, and I want to make sure those are the very first leads that I'm working at that time. So I can build a query out that says, okay, from 8 to 9, I'm going to work, and I'll just pull up this individual query so you can kind of get an idea of what it looks like. But you'll see that I am working only leads that I own, so limit calls to record owner. I'm also working rating with a hot, lead source of web, phone, and partner referral, and then status is, open, not contacted, and working. So I'm not, dealing with anything that I don't want. It's all been filtered out for me. The other nice thing that I can do is that I can actually sort this by dials ascending. So I'm pulling in anybody with 0 dials first, and then 1 dial, 2 dials, 3 dials, 4 dials. So again, it helps me prioritize, and it helps me be able to understand to get to my best leads. I'm not trying to kind of fumble through, a bunch of different leads to figure out who is the best person to contact. It's automatically doing it for me. It's pulling these leads in on a consistent basis. And the other thing is that you'll see here is that not only can we prioritize an individual query, but we can also prioritize a specific seek list. So, from 8 to 9, right now I want to make sure that my hot leads are the first thing to pull in. Well, if I run out of those leads, obviously the hot leads, there's going to be few and far between at times. It will automatically jump down to my warm leads here that are functioning from 8 to 5. So once I run out of those hot leads, it automatically goes to my warm leads. And then if I run out of my warm leads, again, this is a very basic seek list, but I have what we call a catch-all, which still allows me to keep dialing. It may not be the best leads that we have, but it still gives the reps some leads to be dialing on a consistent basis. So that's kind of, again, I wanted to show you, give you the peek behind the curtain of how those seek lists work. They can be really dynamic in the sense that you can build out additional queries and that you can really have those filters really tied down to really help you as a rep or you as an admin help your reps be focused on the best leads possible and make sure they're being as productive as possible. So then how does this all work? So once I have my seek list built out, we have two different options that we can leverage the seek list. One is through our Power Dialer window. So I can launch a seek list, and what will happen is, let me make sure always make sure you allow the pop-ups to block. Sometimes companies will launch it and then think that something's broken. But this is what we refer to as the Power Dialer window. So there's a couple of advantages of the Power Dialer window that people really like. The first one is that you'll notice that it looks a lot like Salesforce, but it's not exactly like Salesforce. But one thing that it does really well is that it pulls up an edit mode for the reps so that they can automatically edit the record as they're going, where when you're inside Salesforce, you have to click on edit, and then you open it up in edit mode, and you kind of keep going. The other thing that people really like about the Power Dialer window is that it also, if you'll notice, right, I don't have additional tabs up here, so it helps them just be a little bit more focused and not get so distracted on things. So they can kind of run through real quickly, and they can just kind of keep going. You'll see the dialer panel here has, all the same buttons. All I have to do is hit next call, or I can hit save and next to move to the next record. But yeah, so those are kind of the two different advantages of the Power Dialer window. Most of our companies, and what we are pushing most of our companies to, though, however, is what we call the next record button. I showed you a little bit about the next record button, but you'll see here on the click to call panel, you have your settings. So I can go in and select my seek list here. I hit save. Once I hit next record, it's going to pull up that first record for me to dial, and then I'm off and running. I hit dial on the record. It's very similar to click to call. That's why a lot of our companies like it. It's similar to click to call, which a lot of reps can use intuitively. Also, they like being in Salesforce natively, so they can look at everything. The other thing that I really like about the next record button, and I would encourage you guys to use the next record button, is one of the things that companies run into with trouble with our software is some errors that they'll run into. The dialer will say, hey, there's an error saving this call and things of that nature. Generally what that is, what we find is happening is that reps like to open up 20 or 30 tabs at a time. So they'll go into a list view and they'll just open up 20 or 30 different records, and then they'll start dialing them and then close them out as they've dialed them. Well, the problem is that if I have 20 or 30 different tabs open, and if I'm on one tab and I make a dial on it, and then I move to the other tab and then I'm trying to save the record, well, that new tab doesn't know that I made the dial on the other tab, and so that's why those errors tend to start popping up everywhere. So the next record button also, because you're just kind of quickly going through each record, it eliminates that need to have multiple tabs open, which also eliminates a lot of those errors that a lot of people will find. So, again, that is the Power Dialer, and we highly encourage the next record button as people start using it. I did want to show you guys a few other things with the inside sales that you should be aware of. A couple of these you guys as a company may not have access to, so if you have any questions about it, please reach out to your customer success manager, and they'd be happy to address some of these products if you guys are currently not leveraging them, or if you don't know if you have that in your current contracts, feel free to reach out and they can answer any questions that you have. But I wanted to first show you the managed voice messages. So these are the automated voicemails. If you go into the Inside Sales tab in Salesforce, you can click on Manage Voice Messages. It's really simple to do. all you have to do is hit create new voice message. So you can actually, if you want, upload a WAV file or an MP3 file or anything like that to this, and it'll automatically go in there. Or if you want to, all you have to do is you can type in test, and then once you hit create message, your station phone is going to ring, so your desk phone's going to ring. You pick it up. It will have a pre-recording on there that says press 1 to leave a new message, press 2 to re-record the message or to listen and re-record. So you can kind of get it right. It's not like a one-shot thing. You can keep tweaking it if you like to, and then you can go ahead and then hang up the phone. It'll automatically be saved, and then it'll also be saved in your button here so that you can start accessing it. Another thing I wanted to share with the reps is just the power standings widget here. I particularly really love this tool. It's a great way for you to kind of see where you stand. Again, this is one of those tools that you may have access to it or may not. I would reach out to your customer success manager to see if you guys have something there. But it's really our gamification portion. But you know, an admin can go in and set up on key KPIs or key performance indicators. So you'll see here we have correct contacts, dials, outbound talk time. It'll show me where I'm ranked. It'll show me you know, where the next person is. So, you know, it'll say, hey, I'm dials ranked 1, the next person is 0, but maybe I'm ranked 3. It'll say I have 1, and the second place person has 3 dials at that time. So it allows me to kind of have a great understanding of where I am and compared to the rest of my team. And some other things that you can do that are fun from an admin perspective is, you know, for example, you can actually throw out challenges. So you'll see we have a challenge section here. I mentioned, you know, a common issue that we see with a lot of our sales organizations is, you know, reps start coming in at 8 o'clock, and that's a really good dialing time, and it's hard to get them going in the morning because, you know, they're grabbing their cup of coffee, they're kind of getting things situated, they're getting their computer ready and ready to go. So a lot of our companies have had some success by running challenges by saying, hey, from 8 to 9, I'm going to run a challenge of whoever can get the most dials or whoever can get the most correct contacts. And I'm going to throw out like a $5 gift card to Starbucks, or I'm going to give them a half day on Friday. You know, you can come up with your own reward system, but it encourages the reps to get in a little bit more, get focused a little bit quicker. We also see it too, like post lunchtime. You know, they come back from lunch, it gets them a while to get going, so they'll run like a similar challenge at that time. Also, if I'm a rep, I can issue throwdown, so you'll see I have points assigned to me. So let's just say I know that Skylar Williams is ahead of me in dials, and I want to challenge him. So I will say, hey, Skylar, I want to challenge you to dials, and I'm going to wager, you know, 10 points here, and I want it to last, you know, an hour to see who can make the most, and I'll select the start time. I hit OK. Now Skylar's going to be alerted that I have issued a throwdown, and he can accept that challenge, and then it's kind of game on. Whoever wins gets the points. If you lose those points. So it's a great way to kind of increase some competition in your office, and again, hopefully have some fun with it and have some more productivity. So that is kind of all that we had today scheduled for on the Inside Sales Best Practice Training. Again, we will have a recording for this later that you can distribute to your team members if they were unable to attend. If you have any questions, we have our question and answer box open. Also, feel free to reach out to your customer success manager. They'll be happy to answer and address any questions that you have that came out of this training if you thought of something afterwards. But it's been a pleasure hosting this with you guys, and let us know how we can help moving forward. We'll also send a survey out, so let us know feedback of what we can do better as we are looking to host kind of monthly trainings for our clients moving forward so that you guys can get some of these best practices and have an understanding of some of the ins and outs of our tools to help you be more successful and productive with us. Thanks so much, everyone.